Welcome to THRS Deep Cuts. I'm Andrew.
Mick.
And it's just us two this week. Everyone's dished us for this process, so screw all you guys. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, everyone's breaking curfew by the sounds of it.
They all have something to do apparently on a Saturday night as we film this one. I don't know what they're doing after 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, but apparently it doesn't involve being available to be on your computer.
Correct, yes. So...
No, we love them. Everyone's got shit to do. It'll be one of those things where we'll roll through and whoever's available will do whatever they can do each and every week. On that front, details are somewhere on the screen, so make sure you're following all of our social media channels, not just the platform you're watching this on. And if you're watching on TV, make sure you're tuning in every Thursday night in Adelaide at 10:30 p.m. and every Saturday night in Melbourne on Channel 31. Please follow us, like I said, and also give us some support via Patreon if you'd be so kind. And speaking of support, thank you very much to Squidding Screen Printing, Old Colt and Rockstar Finance. Thank you so much for your support. And also make sure at the moment to check out Old Colt in particular, because I have a battle jacket competition going on. So if that's your thing, get involved now. All right, so on the deeper cuts, as we've started last week, we're trying to get through and dig a bit deeper into things. And so tonight, our opening conversation topic is going to be 5 bands or thereabouts that we'd like to see do acoustic unplugged set like used to be done in the old MTV days. We're also going to review the latest from Melbourne band Wicked Smile, their debut EP. We're going to review the latest from Sons of Apollo, which ties into our theme at the moment, which is solo or side projects. It's a bit of a supergroup one. We'll also be doing a little bit of a nod to someone who was very active with us at the show, and in particular in our THRS Lounge, which is our group on Facebook. Damien Rook, he was pivotal in helping us find new music, was always really engaged and really active and a lot of fun, really lovely guy. So we want to pay attention or give a bit of a nod to him by covering 2 things that he really loved and sent through to us. The last thing he sent through to us before he passed away was Silverthorne with their debut EP, Tear the Sky Wide Open. And he was also a massive Kiss fan. You would have seen him before on the show, actually, if you watched our Kiss special. He sent in a video talking about his love for Kiss, and in that little video he referenced the Kiss Unplugged album, which we've never covered before on the show. So I'm glad that I've got Mick, because he's probably our strongest Kiss expert in the area as well. So it'll be good to get his thoughts on that album.
Strongest.
Strongest. With me here tonight. So that's what you're in for on this episode. So it's going to be pretty much a back and forth between the two of us. And I guess without any further ado, let's get stuck into it, Mick. So inspired by the MTV review we're doing. Fuck me, I can't talk tonight. The review we're doing from the MTV Unplugged series, we're going to sort of go through what 5 present-day bands we would love to see do that setup if it was to be sort of rebooted, revamped, whatever. So, Mick, what have you got? What would you like to see do that sort of a setup?
Well, it's a shame because this MTV Unplugged does take you back to a period of time, and a short period of time at that, where, you know, what was it, 94 to 96, 97, thereabouts?
Yeah.
It wasn't too long, but geez, we got some awesome performances, you know, like people still talk about the Nirvana one and the Alice in Chains, and obviously, you know, the Kiss one sits in there as well. But yeah, it was short-lived, and I'm not sure why, because they were just fantastic ways of artists, if you were on the fence whether that, you know, they could play or, you know, with our studio band, that really stripped it down to say, hey, we've got some talent here.
Nowhere to hide.
And we have, above all that, we have some really good songs because they're just with acoustics, you know, and a set of drums, or maybe even just like percussion, some of them, you know. When you look at the Nirvana one and stuff, that was really stripped back, you know, more than anybody else. So, I was going through a list today of who I'd love to see, and to be honest with you, I could rattle off names, and it'll be the rest of the episode. But so what I did was, who's got a body of work, and who's been able to stay at pretty much an elite level is how I've worked it. So they're not in any particular order.
Cool.
But I'd love to see Whitesnake.
Actually, that'd be really good.
To do something like that, you know, before Coverdale really calls it quits, because he's quit, 6 times in the last 5 years or something?
Starting to suffer.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I'm thinking on a setting like that, he could really showcase, because I had the privilege enough to go and see him earlier this year, and he's still a great showman. Like, he's still, you know, these guys know how to do it, and I think something like that, he'd really shine. Another one would be Def Leppard.
That would be cool too, actually,
because, you know, love it or hate it, people, you know, like the earlier stuff and don't like Hysteria onwards, but that's irrelevant. They have a lot of great songs. I have a performance. I have a Japanese version of one of the live albums, and I do an acoustic medley of, say, 6 or 8 songs.
Okay.
So I do like a verse and a chorus of each, and it just sort of winds into the next part.
Cool.
And it sounds amazing. And I thought, geez, imagine if, and it's funny enough, we started talking about, you know, what band should, and I thought, gee, that'd be perfect for something like this. I'd love to see, from probably a local standpoint, the Baby Animals do something.
That'd be cool too, yeah.
I think, a lot of their stuff would lean itself well into an acoustic performance or a vibe. So, and the other two, just to round it out, I thought I'd love to see Alice Cooper do something.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
And Faith No More. I think that will be really interesting to see how they do their songs and their take, because they were kind of an out there band and sort of ahead of everybody way back when. So just to see how they would transcend into a stripped down format. And I think Mike Patton's got one of the best voices in rock. So but that'd be my top 5 or 6, and probably Devin Townsend if I got to throw one more in, you know. But I've got a list here that I'm just sort of filtering through, and you know, but that would be the main ones that I'd love to see this either be revamped or you know, just pick back up. And I think MTV's shied away from music altogether. This might be a good way to get music back on TV and exposure for these types of bands, you know.
They're more easily consumed too. It's less niche when it's in that sort of setup.
Well, I'm sure they could probably have 16 and Pregnant going on in the background on the screen, but the guys are strumming their acoustics, just, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone sort of thing.
Make it the
soundtrack. So, they're my few, dude. So,
No, cool. I think that the original premise did fall victim to MTV's shift away from music and more into reality television, as unfortunate as that was. But hopefully, maybe even in Australia, with all the, I guess, ways and means of trying to get music on TV again, maybe this will be something that will crop up out here, if nothing else. But we'll wait and see on that front. I'm not holding my breath. But those are some really cool choices, man. There was some there I didn't think of, like that would go really well. Faith No More would be really cool to check that out. That I would be definitely down for. The rest were all good choices too. So like you, I've got probably a couple of extra mentions on top of my 5. It's just 2 of us, so bugger it. My first one, like it's not any particular order, but the first one that jumped to mind for me was the Tea Party.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I think I know they've done things like that before, but it just really, you can imagine it being filmed in the round kind of a thing with, like, they'd just be able to play with lighting and that as well. It'd be a really good setup if they did it right with them, because they've just got the right songs. And Jeff Martin is an absolute... It's stunning to watch him perform acoustic if you ever get the chance to do so. It's fantastic.
I haven't actually seen him acoustic, but I have seen the Tea Party a couple of times. So for a 3-piece, they're fucking great, man. That wall of sound that they're able to create, you know, really good band. Good choice, actually. I didn't think of that one. So
there you go. That's why we do these things together. For a more recent company, they're not new anymore, but they've been around for a while. But, you know, one of the ones that sort of rising to the top of the pile at the moment, I pick Hailstorm. Actually, I think Lizzie's voice would be really good in that setting, and that band has the chops to pull it off, for that matter, as well. That'd be really cool. Going on to the local scene, though, I'd love to see Ragdoll do it. Ragdoll, I think, they've got the chops, and Leon's guitar work is great, and Ryan's voice is fantastic. So there's going to be another band, I reckon, that could nail it. One that would be like a bucket list wish for me, I doubt it'll ever happen, but I reckon it'd be really cool to see them do it, would be Iron Maiden.
I thought about putting them on the list, and I thought I would love to see them doing an S&M themselves, you know, before they did an acoustics thing. I think, imagine the orchestra with all the fucking 3 guitars. Jesus Christ, that would be a wall of sound, really, you know. But obviously that would be a great choice, you know, to hear their songs stripped back and maybe a few different versions of, you know, certain songs to sort of make them work that way. So
imagine things like Fear of the Dark in that sort of setting too. That'd be pretty
cool. Or, you know, like the Trooper or something like that, you know.
Yeah, he's there to go through. We will go through. I do want to go through like an orchestral thing too, because of the S&M one we did the other day. So I'd like to do a list like this for that sort of premise too.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I'll hold on to that thought for a little bit longer. My final of my top 5, I do have a few honourable mentions to go. That was Evanescence. I think that Amy Lee's voice would be really good for this as well. And the songs, I think, when you strip them down, they would work. And her being a pianist as well would really allow for that vibe to sort of be filled out. It'd be very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Yeah.
An interesting one that a lot of people will scream at me for would be Nickelback, though. I reckon that'd be, the songs would be powerful enough to do it, and they've got the body work. Forget the ballads. You could even just go through the heavier side of the catalogue, and it'd be interesting to see them play that in the acoustic setting, just something different.
I was going to say they interject enough acoustic throughout their albums, so a lot of that stuff would work, you know. So to hear stuff of All the Right Reasons and, you know, some of the heavier stuff, earlier stuff, sort of strip back would be cool. Yeah.
Do something off of Curb, be interesting.
I don't even reckon they would remember how to play.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Another local one that came to mind, because I think the vocal 1-2 punch is fantastic, and that's the Screaming Jets. I think Dave Gleason, Paul Wassine in particular, is fantastic on the vocals. I reckon he'd be a standout element in that one.
Well, the Extravaganza, when he was down doing that, that was a good testament to, just imagine one guy doing it and doing it that well.
Yeah.
Put the other 4 guys or whatever
would ring to it
as well. That'd be fun. Yeah.
And final little odd nomination that just popped in my head while we were doing this would be Blackstone Cherry. I think their catalogue of work would be really good in this environment too.
Oh, throwing in another one, since we're not going to get past this anytime soon. Electric Mary.
Yeah, actually, fuck yeah. Mm-hmm.
That would be insanely good.
That would be awesome, actually. Rusty, have you ever seen Rusty Acoustic?
No, I haven't.
He's really good. Really,
well, there you go. Well, he's really good electric. So when the band's plugged in. So, so Electric Mary would be really good.
Yeah.
So,
well, we've probably gone through 20 plus, I reckon, now. So we'll hold it there. But for those watching, in the comments, you know what to do. Let us know what your top 5 would be to see doing an acoustic, you know, inspired by the old MTV Unplugged. See, who would you love to see do one of those today? So now we'll move along and we'll go to the review section of what we're doing tonight. And we're going to kick it off with the Melbourne band Wicked Smile. I've actually got this sent in here. We're going to be doing a giveaway for our Patreon supporters very soon involving this stuff. So for those that follow us there, you know, you'll keep an eye out for that coming up very soon. But yeah, the debut EP from Wicked Smile is Delirium. And it's 4 tracks for 15 minutes. Like I said, the debut EP from something of an Aussie supergroup. Released independently July the 1st this year, 2020. Recording on this one features Denny Sasati from Pegasus and I Fear as well on vocals, alongside Steve Janeski from the Radio Sun and Black Majesty. He's on guitar. The lineup is now expanded, though. I think they've got Glenn Cav, who I last saw in Virtue, on bass, and there's a few other people who are obviously filling it all out now. So thanks for sending it through to us, Stevie, and we'll get stuck into it. So what did you think of this one?
I absolutely loved it. I knew I would, because Danny and Steve, they've been, if you know the local scene and you know their body of work, they're 2 very, very talented people. And it's about time they teamed up together, because they're always in other bands, very good ones at that, and some that you remembered and mentioned. And, you know, I Fear was another one that was fantastic. Cyclone Tracy, I actually used to rehearse next door to those guys way back in the day when I was trying to work out what the fuck I was doing on the drums. When you look at, say, the early and mid-90s right through to now, I think they've collectively got about 15 or 20 albums between themselves before they did finally this project together. And what it does for me is they've done power metal and they've done, you know, progressive stuff, and they've done really commercial stuff from Steve's perspective, Radio Sun and whatever else. But this, to me, is like, we're doing a bit of everything here, but mainly on the rock side. And I think this works best for Steve's guitar playing. Yep. And it's nice to hear Danny singing about real subject matter, to be honest with you, other than, you know, the traditional metal stuff, you know, the medieval times, all that kind of stuff, which he's always done very well. But I just think it's like, if you like Skid Row and, you know, if you like the bands, well, not so much older bands, but the bands that used to rule the arenas, I guess, which nowadays we don't really have. These songs will lend themselves so well to that, you know, really powerful choruses. Danny sounds still fantastic to this day. I don't know how he keeps his voice in check, but whatever he does, just keep doing it, dude, because you are probably the best singer in Australia.
Yeah, certainly up there.
It did exactly what it needed to do. It came and went like that. 15 minutes just flew by. The songs just lent into each other, rolled into each other so well and so easy. That it's just like, oh, it's done already.
Yeah.
Fuck,
easy to repeat.
I remember getting the CD because I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, cool.
And so I've had it for a couple of months. And that night it came, I put it on. I reckon I listened to it about 8 times.
Wow,
because it was that short and I enjoyed it that much. And then I sort of noticed, you know, the didgeridoo at the start a little bit more after the second or third listen. And it was just these little pop-up things. Yeah. And yeah, I loved it, man. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm looking forward to the new single they're going to drop in the next month or so, outside of this, which I think is a smart move. Just keep going because there's been good momentum for this. If you like classic stadium heavy rock, this is for you, man. Like, you know, you can't fault this. Get onto it. Really good.
Yeah. Well, for all the bands we've mentioned out of this, my strongest anchor point with this group is the Radio Sun, because that's the body of work that I've most covered. I think I've reviewed almost all their albums at some point or another during the show. So coming from that reference point, this was actually, I knew it was going to be heavier than that, but I wasn't expecting how heavy it actually was in the end. Which is like, you know, the other pedigree involved here, but I just didn't know how this would come out, and it's actually pretty fucking rock and pretty heavy. It's very cool stuff. It's that heavy rock to flirting with metal kind of a thing, and it's brilliantly done, very well written, very well performed. I think also knowing that Paul Lane was involved in this, I didn't expect it to be quite as intense as it is with that sort of production point as well, but it just came together really well and was a bit of a bolt out of the blue in that regard for me, which was very, very cool. Pleasant surprise. I always bring up production, which is my personal niche, I guess. The only knock I've got on this is there's a bit of clipping from the bottom end, but again, going for this style of music, it makes sense. It's a personal bugbear, not anything else. It could be an intentional thing as well, which, you know, is meant to drive the thickness of the sound out. But aside from that, the sound is great, but the vocals in particular stand out on this release. It's got great guitar tone and all those things, but the vocals are where this one shines, and for this kind of music, it really needed that element, and they've got the right mix. I think these two working together, like you've said, after all these years finally getting to it, it's the right choice. It's probably the right time too, because I've got all these chops, and now they don't have to really worry about trying to impress anyone. They've already got a body of work behind them, so it's not about anything else apart from doing what you want now, I don't think, and they've just nailed that part. I liked when this one really opened up, when they just let the sound and the stuff rip. It just fucking opened up and it just went bang. It was really cool. Performances are A1, as you expect on this. I love the writing. Like you were saying, the whole EP is short and punchy, which makes the songs short and punchy. Nothing overstays its welcome. It's all very well done. The diversity on the EP is pretty good too. No two songs are alike, which is important for something like this, and it makes the listen really quick. It just goes through, and like you did, you do want to go back to it pretty much as soon as it finishes. You'll hit the repeat button pretty comfortably. Yeah. This is one hell of an introduction to this band, and the solos were fantastic too. So, you know, and they were tasteful. They weren't overplayed. There were none of those things. They were really fitting for the songs. It was a very, very cool part of it as well. Overall, it's riff-driven and melodic with some really nice intensity. If that's your thing, like you were saying, big sort of arena, heavy rock kind of stuff, this is going to get you in a pretty good mood pretty quick. I've listened to this a fair few times now. I reckon at least a dozen times I've given this one a spin now, and I'm not tired of it yet at all. I really did enjoy this one a lot.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I would note about this is that there was, I don't know if you got it, something about the riffage and some of the way this sound came across. I got a bit of like a solo Ozzy Osbourne side of this for mine, just not as an influence, but just it put me in mind of it a little bit.
That guitar tone,
yeah, maybe
close to maybe not the most recent Ozzy album,
yeah,
but the Scream or the Scream album in particular. Very thick, very, you know, it's 4 or 5 overdubs there, but it's
Yeah.
a thick sound to begin with. So what it reminded me of was some of the, but it sounded more modern, but more of the Skid Row, that they've done a couple of EPs in the last, 6 or 7 years, and I had that. They went more for a rustic sound. Well, this is more of a today's sound, but it's just that big balls to the wall guitars, in a natural setting, not so much a produced or a digitalized thing.
That's
like Hell Yeah, it's more on the other side. So it wasn't overdone, but it's definitely not underdone, which was good, So
I think that was really cool. He probably nailed it there. Actually, the layering, the amount of levels in the amount of guitar parts I would have put down for this. I think that's what's given it to me. Actually, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
I think overall this is a really good start, and the lineup now that it's fleshed out is pretty bloody impressive too. I want to see some of this live as soon as we can get back to doing that. This would be fantastic in that environment, I reckon. And this is a good little start up for this band. I hope we can get a lot more from these guys. A lot since they got the new single coming out, which is cool. But I'd like to see on the back of this another EP or an album sooner rather than later, over the next 12 months. I would hope to see something more. It'd be very, very cool.
I think that's the plan, to be honest with you. That's why they're going to be dropping a few more songs. I think they've got a lot more songs done. It was the teaser, Yeah. But I think they'll even progress further. That was concise for a reason. And I think some of the songs will be longer and you'll get a lot more out of it. So, it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, well, like you, I really enjoyed it. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. My standout tracks were Days of Delirium and We Fall. They were the ones that really stood up to me, which I think is the beginning and end of it.
Yeah, I thought Stronger was good. And Love's Got a Hold on You was good. So there's the four of them. So
yeah, well, we obviously enjoyed it. Cool. So out there watching, make sure you check it out and let us know what you think while we move along to... We're doing a lot of Mike Portnoy at the moment. We're going to do Sons of Apollo with 2020. 8 tracks for 58 minutes. The second studio album from this American supergroup released January this year, 2020, via Inside Out Music. It was produced by Mike Portnoy and Derek Sherinian. The lineup for this, if you don't know, consists of Jeff Scott Soto, Ron Bumblefoot, Billy Sheehan, Derek Sherinian, and Mike Portnoy, and about 4 singles were released off of this album as well. So what did you think of this one?
For some reason, I had been avoiding Sons of Apollo. I thought it wasn't going to live up to the hype, to be honest with you, because supergroups in recent times, they haven't lived up.
Yeah.
And I was the most stupidest person in the world to think that this wouldn't live up to it after the caliber of musicianship that's on this album.
The first album didn't grab me.
I didn't hear it. This is the first time me hearing Sons of Apollo. I haven't seen a single. I'm not a video guy, I don't. Unless it pops up on my screen and I'm there and I'll watch it, but I don't go and search for singles and stuff like that. I loved it. I fucking loved it. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it right to the end. And the funny thing was, it starts off and every song is gearing up to that last song, because that is everything that they've all done collectively, or individually to make it a collective, sort of finish to the album. So for me, I just couldn't help getting an underlining tone of Deep Purple in some of the riff sort of feel. It was just, I kept hearing Deep Purple. I
think the vocals leading that a bit too. The bluesier tone of the vocal.
Yeah, it was something there, and I'm going, that's different. That's not Dream Theater. That's not whatever, But I just thought it didn't overplay. No one overplayed. Everybody played their role really well. And when they did do there's some more bass stuff at the end, little solos and stuff, and but when they did play, Jesus Christ, it was good, King of Delusion, that piano in that song, like the intro, and then I think it's about 3/4 of the way through the song, he does another interlude of stuff. That was just, wow. Yeah. That was magical, and I've forgotten how good he was, because I'm probably like Nick. I still think Derek was the best keyboardist for Dream Theater. I think what he did in his brief time there was fantastic.
Underrated, I think.
I think it gets overlooked now because it's been a while. But, fantastic album. I gave it a 10. I couldn't fault. I'm having a good couple of days.
Yeah, having a good couple of days, eh?
I am. Musically, I'm great. It had, if you like Dream Theater, Symphony X, and even like the latest Vanishing Point, which we just touched on recently, that's a combination of all these bands into this band. So, yeah, if you like melodies, but you like heavy grooves and some technicality in parts, it wasn't very technical overall. It was just some parts was like, hang on, we can do maybe this. This would kind of like give it a bit of an interesting sort of outlook here. It was great. I loved it. Standouts for me were Wither to Black, Asphyxiation, Resurrection Day, and King of Delusion.
Cool.
So, I that's on my list to buy. I'm fucking gonna get that. Loved it. Now I'm curious to hear the first one.
Yeah.
I know it didn't grab you, but just to see how they got to this one. Yeah.
Like, don't let my opinion put you off of it either. Remember that I find it harder to get into these sorts of ones a bit more with the more proggy element underneath it all. But I think the difference between the first album and this one is that I think on this one you can tell that they've clicked. It's a band, not musicians working together. It's an actual band. There's a feel about it that's really organic on this one.
Okay.
And that really appealed to me. And that worked in really well with Jeff Scott Soto on the vocal with the bluesier tone and the way he sings. It's not the clinical, precise, melodic metal style. He has that rasp, and it's just that.
Yeah, it was a different vocal. It was you were expecting a cleaner. At least I was. Yeah. Something along the lines of a Bruce Dickinson or a James LaBrie, but it wasn't quite that, which gave it another good twist on it as well. So
different. It made it different. Makes it stand out, and it makes it work, and it works really, really well for mine. We've covered it off. It's melodic metal with some progressive elements, as you expect from the pedigree of the band. But the bluesy voice does make this a really cool combination of worlds, I guess. Having a more blues-oriented vocal with this sort of music is a nice... I love the gear change on that. It makes this one jump out from the pack in a big way for mine. I loved the production. I thought there was great depth and some glorious tones on this. I loved how everything has been captured and mixed on this.
It was warm. It wasn't. It didn't. It sounded like a vinyl. As funny as that sound, it was very warm to the ears. Yeah, which was nice. It was change. So.
I thought at times the bottom end might have been a bit too much, but it does have that warm vinyl kind of effect on it too. And why that I think they did that. And my main criticism on things like Dream Theater, for example, is how clinical it all is. And this doesn't have that clinical, sterile kind of production. This has that warm. It all bleeds a bit, which is really nice. I like that kind of mix. I thought the lyrics were fantastic, some great storytelling on that. The vibe and the mood on this was fantastic, and it shifted nicely from song to song. It's aggressive, but it's really nice and melodic and beautiful at the same time. It has all those things sort of mixed into one big pot, and it just goes really, really well. Like I said, the first album didn't grab me because it probably was too much of the case of musicians working together as opposed to being a genuine band, whereas you feel like now if they were just jamming in a room, you reckon they'd knock something out like the 15-minute epic was something that was organic to them, didn't sit there write down all the theory and stuff, they just played. And that's what it feels like on this one.
I'm really curious to go to the live album now that they've put out, to see how that, is. I don't know if it's on the back of this one or on the back of the first one.
I think it was on the first one before this one, yeah.
Okay. But it'd be interesting, the progression from when they recorded to taking it to the stage to get into this album. So
I think they've even acknowledged that they feel the chemistry is much more gelled now with it all being, because that's the thing with, you get a bunch of musicians or supergroup and put them together and they're all really good, but getting that connection to flow and jam off of each other and vibe, that's a different thing. I think they've got it now.
I hope it's a long-term project. I hope it's something that they go off and do things, but then they come back and make this sort of like a part of a mothership, per se.
Yeah, I'd like to see more on the back of this album. I would like to see much, much more from this. I think the points that stand out about it will make this one really interesting, and I want to hear more of it now. I've gone through this one. Overall, it's ballsy, it's heavy. I like the track order on this as well. Like they put that piano part right at the right time, and the 15-minute epic at the end is good as well. The diversity is cool. Like the heaviness in the slower songs is really a palpable thing. It's nicely done. That's where they used the piano too. They really built this vibe, the mood of the songs. It wasn't just heavy with the riffs, and it was heavy in the atmosphere and the way it sounds. It was really cool. And I like how, especially at the last track, they've given everyone that little bit of time to shine from drums.
Yeah, everyone just gets to let loose now,
Yeah.
you know. We're not writing for the song. You just put all your shit in there together. You know, let's all do it together. So
get your orgasm at the end of the thing, basically. So that's how it works.
Yeah, like I said, it really feels like from the first song to the last song,
Yeah.
that's where they're gearing towards, you know.
That's the payoff.
Yeah, 100%. So, very good. What are you going to give it?
I think I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, much like the Wicked Smile one. So that seems to be my benchmark at the moment. But I'm much more curious and open-minded about where this band is going next. I do want to see more because this is one of those ones where the more I listen to it, the more I liked it as well. So give me a few months and probably go up more toward a 10 direction as well.
Yeah.
But I picked 8.5 out of 10 for me, and I picked Goodbye Divinity. I think that was the opener on this one. That's a great track. Hell of a way to open the record too. I picked Resurrection Day, the same as you, and also Fall to Ascend was a standout for mine as well.
Okay.
So out there in the comments, you know what to do. Give us your thoughts on this band and in particular this album as well. And if you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favour and do so very much. Now we move into the more somber territory. Now, the reason why I came across Silverthorne was because of Damien Rook, which we covered at the top of the show. And I do want to just quickly send out a message of condolences to his family and friends because his death was very sudden and very unexpected. And it was a matter of weeks ago as we do this one today. Now, he sent us a message at the show pointing out this band, Silverthorne. He was talking to Brian Tichy, who was in the band, and I don't know how he even managed to do that, but he was apparently having a conversation with him, and he was raving about this band non-stop. He loved them, and every time we could, he would suggest the clip, which is the title track to the EP, which is Tear the Sky Wide Open. So this is for him, and we'll do another album afterward for him as well. So, Damien, to your family and to your friends, our sincerest condolences. Hopefully you're all doing well, and now we'll get stuck into our thoughts on this while the dog's kicking his head behind me. All right, all right, so Silverthorne, Tear the Sky Wide Open, the debut EP from this band, 5 tracks for 23 minutes. The lineup of this power trio is Pete Shoulder, Daniel Spree, and Brian Tichy. This is released in February 2020 via Golden Robot Records, and I haven't got a lot of other information about it aside from that. So here we go. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, it was like a dirty, heavy-style groove rock album, you know.
Yeah.
It was diverse. It actually, the first 2 songs probably blended well, and then after that it does, you know, take on its own sort of entity. It goes in different directions, but it doesn't go too far away where you go, this sounds like a different band. It all seems to work well. I thought, I know it's only 5 songs, but I thought the track order worked really well, and where they put the differences, that it made sense in track order. It wasn't breaking any new ground, but it still sounded fresh because you don't get that. It's almost like that. And this is probably pushing a little bit, but it reminded me a bit of Caius.
Okay, yeah, cool.
That fuzzy sort of dirty, dark, you know, rhythm guitar. Wasn't as fuzzy as what as Caius would be or anything, but it did, you know, lend its hand to that. And I'm just wondering if that was a bit of an influence. But it also reminded me of, if you're a Soundgarden or Electric Mary fan, this is not far away from
the
that.
vocal. Yeah.
Geez, I was going to say, he sounded a lot like Cornell.
Yeah.
Like, in some spots, I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, he's not dead. He's in this band.
Powerful vocal too.
Yeah, he could do a lot with his voice. I was surprised. Like, you know, some of those choruses were very powerful and sort of high register, and then he had this nice mid to low raspy tone as well, which did lend itself to Cornell a lot. I thought it was good. I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yep.
Pull Me Back Again and Black River Rising were my 2 standouts, but really the whole lot was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Awesome. It's cool doing ones with you because, like, me and Brendan tend to bounce into the same directions a lot, whereas you and I can go wildly different. And so far, all of our standout picks are completely different to one another, which is really cool. But it means we're getting, like, there's something for everyone in these releases, which is really cool. And this one is no exception. I really enjoyed this one. This is a hell of a debut EP. Fuck me dead. I don't know what it is, but a lot of power trios have this massive sound. I don't know how they do it, but obviously in the production stuff in the studio, but this one sounds great. We should do a power trio special at some point, I reckon. That'd be an interesting one. I'm not sure if this is self-produced. You do your research, and they've talked about their studio being on the outskirts of somewhere, I think Los Angeles maybe. So they might have self-produced it. I don't know. But whoever did the production on this, I thought deserves a bit of a nod. The taste will impact how you perceive the tones, because it does have that fuzzy sort of Desert Stone rock kind of influence on the guitar. But it's not over the top. It's one of those things where it fills out the sound more nicely, but some people don't like that, and as such, that'll put them off. But if you're open-minded to that sort of stuff, not that it's a big deal anyway, but just because of taste, yeah.
It had a bit of guts. It was a rock EP, you know, like it won't make commercial radio because it has a bit of guts in it. That's the worst part about it. This is the way rock should sound today.
Yeah. The lead song on this, Tear the Sky Wide Open, is a hell of a song, and that is up there for me for one of the songs of the year I found so far. Okay. That hook is fucking amazing. That's why it'd be perfect for radio. I would love to see it get a shot at radio. This thing pumps out of the speakers, and the mix is great. I love the tones. I liked the space on it. Like, it really does have a big sound. It just has the whole 3D dimension on it. Really cool. It's blues based, but it's really ballsy, and it's like because of the diversity in the EP, you know that if they do an album anytime soon, you're going to get a bit of everything on it as well. It's got that Zeppelin to Soundgarden kind of anywhere in that wheelhouse kind of thing, and they could do just about anything with this. Like, the 5 tracks they've got here show you anything is on the cards, and it's an impressive debut, and it shows off the songwriting chops already. 5 songs with the diversity they've got. Again, they don't feel so far out of place that it's not the same thing anymore. You can tell it's the same organic process. But
it's another thing that they feel comfortable in their own skin. They're going to back themselves, you know. Yeah. So nowadays it's so easy. If one song takes off, then we need to write another 10 of those, you know. They're not going to do that, I don't think. They're going to just write what they feel, and whatever's strongest is going to make the next release. And that's the best way to be in a band. That's how I always work my bands. So, and I didn't go anywhere, so don't listen to me. But
I think
you need to, especially in the early days, you need to be creative as much as possible. You know, so the listener gets you from the get-go. There's nothing worse than a band decides to do something left of center 4 albums in. Yeah, that's when they lose a lot of fans. If you do it from the get-go, you know, you can only get better and go and be bigger from there. So,
gives you more of a platform to launch from.
I think so. Yeah, I think it shows more variety. Just shows more strength in the ability of you being a musician and a songwriter, as opposed to, you know, I know how to do this and I'm going to do this to a T. Yeah, so,
no, it's cool. I like that aspect of it too, and I think that like these guys being a bit more seasoned, like they're not, you know, fresh around the gills kind of thing. They've got some years under their belt, so they've got that experience already. So they know I think it's the same thing we had with the previous, like with Wicked Smile and that as well, where, you know, they just feel comfortable doing whatever there is that comes to them naturally, and the rest would be damned kind of a thing.
They're working together, I think. It's like, I know what you do and I know what you can bring, and it's just like, okay, here's the happy medium.
Yeah.
So, it just sounds like a cohesive effort, which is a good thing. So we want more of that. We want more bands sounding like bands, not focused around 1 or 2 people and the rest of the guys are fillings, you know?
I think that, like, the that shows, like it did on the Sons of Apollo, that sort of stuff shows also in the groove and the swing, and this one has a lot of that about it too. Like the rhythm on this is really cool. The groove and the swing, it fucking swings hard when this one gets into it. It's really cool in that regard. So I love the energy they brought to it. The hooks are great. The vocals are the standout element of this for me, though. That vocal was fucking amazing. Lyrics, storytelling was there. It does have a little bit of a prog touch underneath here and there. Nothing over the top, but just little bits to show you, hey, we've got some chops as well, and they put it in there in a very tasteful way, which is cool. And I want a full album out of this. I don't know if you've checked out Vandenberg's Moon Kings yourself, but this is a band that I've really enjoyed over the last few years as well. I reckon if you like that, or like we've discussed, anything from Zeppelin through to Soundgarden, give this one a listen. It's really cool.
Okay.
This is seasoned musicians getting together to form a genuine band, and that's how it sounds and that's how it feels. I regret that it took me so long to get around to appreciating this one. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I picked Tear the Sky Wide Open and Movin', which means, again, we've covered almost all the EP with our choices there. So, yes, out there, make sure you let us know what you think of this one too. Please do check it out. This one's well worth your time. And now we'll get on to the big gun for this episode, and it doesn't get much bigger than the band Kiss. Whether you love them or hate them, everyone fucking knows who they are. So now it's time to do an album of theirs that we haven't covered before, and we're choosing this one because Damien, when he did the video he sent in for the Kiss special, he referenced this album in particular, and we've never done it before, so we figured what better time than now. So Kiss Unplugged is 15 tracks for 56 minutes. It's a live acoustic album taken from the MTV series, released March 96 by Mercury, produced by Alex Coletti. This performance marked the first time since 1979 that all of the original members of the band were back together on the stage, and it led to the full reunion afterward, which some people do or don't like, depending on how you look at things. Over to you. What did you think of this one? Where does this one rank for you amongst your devotion to Kiss?
It would probably... easily be in the top 5, easily, for a couple of reasons.
Yep.
Performance.
Yeah.
But put that to the side. Song selection.
Yeah.
I'm really big on song selection. You got to get that right. If you're going to do acoustic, and that's been my little bit of gripe about Metallica doing the symphony stuff. I don't think they always got the songs right, especially, with the first one.
Yep.
You don't. Some songs are already busy enough. Like Battery doesn't need a fucking orchestra on it, Like it just doesn't. I just thought they picked the right songs.
Yeah.
And they even did some, stuff from Gene's solo album. And, they were very bold with this, knowing, that they had nothing to lose here at this point in time. They're well and truly established.
Yeah.
The band at that point with... the then current band being Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick were just cruising. They had done 2.5 years of touring together, and they were just at an all-time high. And the funny thing is when Peter and Ace do come on, that actually drops a bit.
Yeah, the
level of performance drops a bit. It's not as tight.
Yeah.
It's not as in sync.
Yeah.
But still has a magic or a flavour about it that, sort of lent you back to a yesteryear.
Yeah.
It's probably the last greatest performance they've done. So for Bruce Kulick, but that being his last performance, it's a good way to go out.
Yeah.
He was a flawless guitarist. He was my favourite guitarist in the band anyway. But
I reckon he's got the best chops out of them all. Personal.
I think he can do all the players. That's why, if you needed a Vinnie Vincent flashy thing, he could do that.
Yep.
You needed a more stripped back stuff, he could do the A style,
Yep.
So it worked really well. For me, some of the songs that stood out was Every Time I Look at You, which I thought sounds better than Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
This version with the orchestra and that, fucking sounded fantastic,
I liked the strings on that. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was more prominent than the album and stuff like that. And I just think it was just a better version, turned out better.
Really
See You Tonight, which is off Gene's solo album. It's a very stripped back song on his solo album, but it really lent well for this set. A staple right through the 80s up to the early 90s, I Still Love You.
Yeah.
And this absolutely fucking sounds so convincing,
That vocal.
It's just before Paul was, he had another year or two in him, and then after that, it's been all downhill after that. But,
the vocal on this, his vocal stands out across this entire record for mine.
Yeah. I just think the performances right through, the harmonies, everything was just bang on. And one more, A World Without Heroes.
Yeah.
That, again, sounds better than the album, version. So they really stepped it up. They took it seriously. That's what I liked about it. They really wanted to show that they, or shake the tag of being the gimmick band, right through their careers. That's what they've always had, from the haters. And I think this is, well, here, have a listen to this.
Yeah.
Now judge them on songs.
Talent. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it. I haven't heard in a long time, so I flicked through it today.
Yeah.
just for a refresher. And I just love the selections, you know, Plastercaster and Coming Home, and songs I haven't actually ever played live. So
Go Blind worked well on this too.
Yeah. I think Sure Knows Something. Sounds fantastic. You know, so that's the way for me. When you're making an event, and it's going to be a one-off or it's not going to be a tour, you've got to really make it special. And that's where you dig deep and pull out the deep cuts, ironically enough. So, so that's, for me, this is a magical, you know, period of time to sort of close one chapter of the band, and obviously we know what's happened afterwards. So,
Yeah, no, I did enjoy this one a lot. I remember this being a really big deal when it came out, when it all happened. Everyone, you know, it was all over everything. You see the videos that, you know, from the MTV coverage and that. But I never really sat down with this album until doing this, because we've done the massive Kiss special before and we didn't do it then, and I haven't been able to get back to listen to this one now. So I'm really glad we've finally gotten around to doing it. This is a pleasant surprise. Like, you knew the big songs that, you know, were the ones that were the videos and that they all were done really well. But to hear the whole thing being done as well as it is really cool. I mean, you mentioned when the original members Ace and Peter jump into it. It for me, 2000 Man and Beth and that, they are the weaker sort of moments on here. Like, I get that.
They really are.
I understand the nostalgia and you do appreciate the feel for this, which is really cool. The way it's been produced. I mean, you know it's going to sound good as for TV, but the way they've captured the vibe with the audience and that, and how real it all sort of feels and how it flows, the warmth of it. When those two songs come in, it captures the vibe of the room, and that's where you sort of get a bit of taste of the magic. That was obviously what motivated what came next afterward. But performance-wise, they're not the strongest moments of the night either. So it's a weird thing. It's definitely the chemistry is there, but the performances were not quite as good. So it was really cool to see that captured in that moment as well. As you get to see the good and the bad of both sides of how that played out, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's history, and so be it. I did appreciate the band's talent a lot more from doing the Kiss special, but hearing them in this moment, you really do get a grasp of not only how good the songs are, they're not complicated, but they're fucking well written, they're catchy, and the performances to go with them are fantastic on this. I think apart from the two songs, you know, the weaker, which is not even that weak, element of this is Gene's lead vocal was never the strongest aspect of this band anyway. But if that's your weakest point from the actual full band part of this thing, that's not a big low. That's still a pretty high bar on this thing. Like you were saying, the harmonies and that were fantastic too. For me, Paul Stanley's vocal across the board was the thing that really leaped out, because he shows just how good he was at his peak of his powers, kind of thing. It was fucking impressive to hear him do it. And like we've covered before in these acoustic ones, there's nowhere to hide. You can't fuck up because you've got no coverage. There's no distorted guitar to sort of give you some cover, which is in the mid-range. You are there. And this is really cool to hear that knocked out of the park. Like I said, the performance is great. There's nothing outrageous in terms of the arrangement, because the songs themselves are pretty simple as it is, but the way they've, like, the testament of a good song is usually how well it translates from the electric to the acoustic. Yeah. And these songs, all of them, do that really, really well. So that, to me, has always been a benchmark of what makes a good song, is if you can put down the electric, pick up the acoustic, and it still works. And they haven't changed too much about these songs, but they've just transferred beautifully into that setting, which again is a nod to their craftsmanship that they've developed over the years from the start to this point in time. I think with these sorts of ones, it always comes down to your own personal favourites anyway. So, you know, that your favourites generally are going to be ones you really enjoy, unless, like maybe in your case, might be different because you're so much more into this band than I am, for example. I'm much more casual than you are. So I'm going to lean more to the ones that I do know more as standout tracks, because you can sing along with them, you get more into it more easily. But that said, there's not a dud song on here, and everything was really cool. I loved how this was just captured, presented, and the tracks were really good choices too. Even the ones that we know, the deeper cuts, they're really good choices. They worked so well on this from start to finish. I thought this was a standout record, really well done. For me, it's another 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I picked my main standout is I Still Love You, just because of that vocal. That moment on that record is fantastic. But I also picked Domino, because I reckon that transferred really well into the setting. But also Sure Knows Something, because the tones and then the harmonies and the vocals, all sort of stuff, that worked really, really well. But, you know, every time I look at it, it was another great one. You know, Rock and Roll Night is always fun too, but things like Coming Home to start it was, you know, a good way to sort of come into it. You know, there were no bad things about this. Rock Bottom was another, you know, solid one. Everything was good on this. Like, even like I said, the lowest points for me were 2000 Man and Beth, but even Beth, which is a song that I think, and I've said it before, I think that's a pretty overrated song. On this setting, it worked a lot better.
Yeah.
Because it's a stronger setup kind of a thing. It made me want to listen to this version of it much more than the studio version of it. So, you know, everything here is sort of lifted up a peg as well in that regard. So it's really cool. If you haven't checked it out like me, don't be an idiot. Go and give this one a listen, because even if you're not a Kiss fan, I reckon this is enough of an access point for people that have dismissed them to really sort of sit down and give them a bit more credit than they've been due from the people like me that have been critical of them in the past. I think well worth the time. So, yes, very glad to get around to listening to this one at long last. It's not one I can tick off that never-ending list of albums, you know, you got to get around to at some point or another.
The bucket's very deep. So.
Yeah, it's a never-ending list, that one. But I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of thoughts on this album, so you know what to do in the comments. Give us your thoughts on this, please do. I want to hear as many people talk about this album in particular as we can. Let's get a conversation going. But yeah, that brings us to the conclusion. We've actually fired through this one pretty quickly in terms of things for us, generally speaking. So, no, we've done it pretty good. So thank you for making the time to come and sit down with me to do this one tonight. It's always good to do these.
It's been all right. It's been fun. It always is fun, but you never quite know when you're on your own. It's like, fuck, can we do it? You know? No,
we managed to do it. I think it's the first one you and I have done alone, actually.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's the first time we've done. So there we go. I reckon that's going pretty well.
We've done parts of shows alone, like
a full show.
You know, we haven't all done the same albums, but a full show. Yeah, this is we popped our cherry on that one. So.
Hopefully everyone out there had as much fun with it as we did, because I actually really enjoyed it. And like I said, it's cool how you and I are usually pretty on the opposite side of the spectrum in a lot of respects, so it gives a good balance to things. Yeah.
My new nemesis is Dave. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day you two were having fun with each other. We'll see how that goes for the rest of this year too. I reckon the top 10s are going to be pretty interesting come December. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything you want to feed into the bin tonight? Have you got anything for it?
Mine's going to be really quick.
Yeah.
It's been hard enough this year, and we're not going to go over why it's been hard, because I think it's been touched on. But authorities, mainly police, not just here, anywhere. We need to take stock. The treatment that's going on, you know, is getting beyond the joke now. We're becoming a communist world, you know, like where you can't say or do or anything that's and I understand people pushing boundaries, and you need a little bit of you know, I don't know, you need to keep some kind of line, you know. But it's getting way out of hand, you know. The most recent thing I saw just before, and I caught the end of it, so I don't really understand what happened, but guy in the US, handcuffed, and they put a bag over his head. Yeah. And he's died. Yeah. Because he couldn't fucking breathe. Yeah. And everything going on. What the fuck is going on, man? You know, like, you've handcuffed him, he's on the ground, like, you know, and then let's put America to the side, because they've got a lot of shit going on. But, you know, over here as well, you know, I understand we've got to wear a mask, but some people are being defiant and whatever else. And that's going to happen no matter what it is. Yeah. You know, but just the rough treatment that's going on by authorities, you know, like.
Doesn't need to be so heavy-handed.
It's not going to fix the problem. No. You know, you're putting fuel on the fire, for lack of a better expression. Yeah. And if you want this shit to drag on longer and longer and longer, use your voice. You should be smart enough. You should be able to diffuse. That's part of the training is for you to get the psyche of the other person by what they're saying in their body movement and language and diffusing that. Now we're just going in to be tough guys. Yeah. There's enough tough guys going around the streets being stupid. We don't need people in uniform doing that as well.
No, they should be held to a higher standard.
So I'm putting cops in the bin, because, to be honest with you, this last 6 months,
Yeah.
I can't accept that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying it's just this last 6 months. It's probably always going on, but it's getting heightened by the year that we're having.
Also, everyone's got the phone, so it's more visible now too.
Well, it's you know, it goes back to my bin from last night. You know, like, there's people doing stupid stuff outside of curfews and whatever else. You know, you're gonna get caught, man. Yeah. Everything is filmed, whether you like it or not.
It's all on the record.
The street has a camera in it. You might not know where it is exactly, but they know your movements. So, but putting that aside, it's just cops in general, man. They're just, you know, it's a little bit out of hand at the moment, and it needs to, that whole double standard thing, you know, of because I got a uniform on gives me the privilege. No, it doesn't.
Nah,
it's a right.
Usually the responsibility.
You know, so yeah.
No, I agree with that. I think it's been too heavy-handed of late, and they need to revisit how they're doing those sorts of things. My bin personally is going to be pretty short and sharp to the point, and if you have me directly on my own personal social media, you would have seen me put this up today as we film this. The protesters today, across wherever you were doing it, honestly, especially those that got arrested, like I said, on social, I'm going to say it here, if you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes, so well done to all of you. I understand a desire to protest, but the funniest thing for me is that a lot of the people that were out there or pushing for this one today were anti the Black Lives Matter protest. So it's just sort of a bit hypocritical in
just
my mind. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a good look if you're pro one and against the other. It's like, where does that sort of sit? So think about the optics of that for a minute, if nothing else. I just think that, I mean, and also, on the same topic, the media coverage of it too, there are certain aspects of the media that made it out to be a lot bigger than it was, and it was really a piss poor turn at the end of the day. And at the same time, the hypocrisy of the protesters complaining about wearing a mask and having a lockdown by protesting at a place that commemorates those that used to run into firing bullets kind of is a bit silly in symbolism terms, but all right, whatever you do, you think.
Could you be any more disrespectful? I think that'd be the best way to put it, man.
Yeah.
You know? Can you be any more disrespectful?
At the same time that Trump's going around calling dead soldiers losers, and you use the War Memorial Monument here to make a point about wearing a mask. It's just
we don't want to see amputees because nobody wants to see that, apparently.
Yeah. It's fucking nuts, isn't it?
We probably deserve this virus when people are talking like that, to be honest with you. And it's
we're not acquitting ourselves well as a species.
It's not wiping out all the right people. So
no. Well, up until this point, the episode's been fun. We're ending on a downer. So hopefully out there, everyone's keeping as well and as safe as you can. Please do, wherever you can, do the right thing overall so we can all get through this faster and get just to the other side as soon as we can, because that's what we're all wanting to do right now, is just get this over with. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors once again in Squidding Screen Printing, Old Colt and Rockstar Finance. Make sure you check out Old Colt in particular for their Battle Jacket competition going on at the moment. If that's your thing, get involved. Submissions are open for a good chunk of this month, so get into it now. Make sure you're following all of our social media channels as well, not just the one you're watching this on. And if you feel so inclined, then we have Patreon, so check that out and give us any support you can, because it's all greatly appreciated. It makes us be able to do a lot more. So there we go. But that's it for now. We're back again very, very soon. It's much more often of this sort of stuff coming up now, so hopefully you're enjoying the newer format. But again, thank you to you, Mick, for taking the time to do this one. It's been an absolute blast to get our first one under our belt when it's just you and I.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I love doing this shit. So
no choice. So.
Well, it's what you said in the chat. I only needed you anyway, so it all worked out in the end.
True that. True that.
All right. We're back again very soon. Until then, I'm Andrew.
I'm Mick.
As always, drink up.
Stay safe, masturbate, and rock on. All right, it's just you and I tonight.
I believe so.
It's like people have got places to be or something.
I know, people have a life.
Don't know how, but yeah.
Neither do I. Not in the current climate of things, but oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.